Being a kid means being terrified of literally everything. The dark, quicksand, this haircut I just got. And when we get older, we grow out of most of these fears. But what if I told you there were certain fears from my childhood that I still have today? And it's all because of these stories I'm about to tell you, including one about the time where an animatronic did something so terrifying to me that I vowed to never go back to Chuck E. Cheese. So I'm gonna tell you about all my childhood fears, and we're gonna decide whether they were actually realistic or not really scary at all. But before we get to the animatronic story, we gotta talk about the fear that literally every kid on the face of this earth has. Jojo, see what? No, I mean, the fear of being kidnapped. And not just the fear of being kidnapped, but also white vans. No, not the shoes. These white vans. Those are still shoes. I'm talking about these white vans. Finally, there we go. I promise, I'm gonna fire my editor if he keeps acting up like this. LOL, no he isn't. What? Do you think I can't see this? What are you talking about? Anyways, I have a very specific reason for why I feared white vans growing up. Now I know, there's already a stigma around white vans. Like the person who's driving it is probably someone that's gonna offer you free candy, but then if you get in the van, you're gonna get kidnapped. So I'm growing up with this information being pumped into my brain constantly, and I'm already on high alert. I'm looking at every white van thinking, yep, there's definitely some kids trapped in there. But here's the thing that made this fear go from irrational to completely justified. Because there was actually someone in my neighborhood who had a white van. And at first, he seemed like a normal guy. He lived a few houses down, had a wife, seemed like he was just living his normal life. They'd wave at each other when he drove by. He'd say hi when we saw him at the mailbox. Just a regular dude with a white van trying to exist. I'd see his white van parked in his driveway and think, okay, well, my parents know him, so he must be one of the rare people who have a white van that won't kidnap you. And he actually made me start to think that people who drove white vans weren't kidnappers until one day when I'm coming home from school and I see police cars everywhere in my neighborhood. But not just one or two, I'm talking full SWAT team, multiple vehicles. The whole block is shut down and they're all at this dude's house, the white van guy's house. And I'm watching from my front yard as they bring this guy out in handcuffs and put him in a police car. So I'm thinking, what did he do? Did he rob a bank? Did he forget to pay his taxes? No, I wasn't thinking that. I didn't even know what taxes were at the time. To be honest, I still don't know what they are. But the point is, my child brain was trying to make sense of it. But later that night, I hear my parents talking about it in the kitchen. They wouldn't tell me directly what was going on, so I had to eavesdrop on their conversation in the hallway. And I hear them say the word murder. I'm thinking, oh, they must be talking about my mom's favorite soap opera or something like that. But I keep listening, and then I hear them say that our neighbor got arrested for murder. This man was actually out here doing unspeakable things, and we had no idea. We were just waving at a whole murderer every morning, and he had a white van. Like, could you have made it any more obvious, dude? I'm sure when the cops were doing their investigation, once they found out that this man had a white van, they immediately decided that he was guilty. Didn't even need any more evidence. So after that, I was convinced every single white van had a murderer inside it. I'd be at the grocery store with my mom and see a white van in the parking lot, and I'd say,
Mom, I love you, but I think we're about to get kidnapped.
If one was driving behind us on the road, I would say,
Mom, step on the gas! Now!
I don't know what Fast and Furious movie I thought I was in, but that's the thought that was going through my brain. I wonder where the guy who did that crime is at now. Let's look him up. Oh, yeah, he's still in prison. Turns out you don't get let off that easy when someone dies. Who would have thought? My fear of white vans is pretty realistic because there definitely have been some victims of white vans. I've seen it firsthand, although it's probably not as likely as it seems. The next fear we gotta talk about is one that literally every single kid on the face of the earth has, the dark. Now, like I said, every kid is scared of the dark, but I took it to another level because I'm pretty sure the house I grew up in was haunted. So whoever lives at this house right now, good luck. But the thing about the dark is that it makes your imagination go absolutely insane. Every shadow you see is a demon. Every creak you hear is someone breaking in. The coat on the back of your door, yeah, that's actually Michael Myers watching you sleep. So one night, I'm lying in bed trying to fall asleep, and out of the corner of my eye, I see my closet door move. And not just a little creak. It wasn't like a, oh, must have been the wind type of move. No, it slowly, deliberately opened by itself. And before you ask, no, I didn't have any windows open because it was like 30 degrees outside, so it couldn't have been from that. Now, since it was dark, I could only see the silhouette of the door moving, and that made it a little more confusing. But I'm frozen, obviously. Like, I literally just discovered that ghosts are real, but because I'm in the dark, alone, I try to gaslight myself into believing that I didn't just see what happened. But then, the door moved again, just slightly, maybe another inch or two. And that was it for me. I decided right there that whatever was in that closet was trying to kill me. So for the next week, I made a promise to myself, which was, I'm not not gonna fall asleep. I couldn't, because I was convinced that every single time I closed my eyes, the closet monster would get me and my whole family would die. So when nighttime came around, I literally forced myself to stay awake until my body physically couldn't take it anymore. I kept the lights on in my room the whole night, and whenever I would start to get a little sleepy, I would just sit up in my bed and stare at the closet. I literally did this for hours, waiting for the morning to come. I got maybe 2 hours of sleep each night during this whole week, but it got to the point where it was ruining my life. My parents started asking why I looked like Goob from Meet the Robinsons, and I just said I was stressed about school. Because what else am I supposed to say? Oh, I'm not going to sleep because if I do, a monster will get me? My dad would have disowned me right there. Instead, I got disowned a couple years later because of how much of a disappointment I was in sports. I'm just kidding. My dad and I love each other. No, that sounded kind of weird. We love each other in a platonic way. Like, not in a... Okay, I'm just gonna stop talking, never mind. Anyways, the only reason I stopped staying up every night was because I started to get pretty sick from not getting enough sleep. Eventually, my parents made me go to the doctor, and they told me that if I continued to get such little sleep every single night, it would stunt my growth. And the one thing I was more scared of than the monsters in my closet was being 5'6". So, I forced myself to start sleeping again, and the monster never got me. I would give this fear about a 50% chance of being realistic because I still don't know what opened that closet door. Was it a ghost? Was it the wind? Even though my window was closed? The world may never know. But I do know what caused me to have this next fear, which is the fear of my parents. Now, so far, we've talked about how I was scared of ghosts and creepy people in white vans, but I promise you, there was nothing in my childhood that scared me more than my mom. I don't even want to speak about the things she was capable of. There were different levels of fearing your parents. Level 1 was when they would use your first name in a slightly stern voice.
Tyler, come here, please.
Okay, no biggie. Maybe I left my backpack on the floor or something. I can handle this. Level 2 was when they would use your first and middle name.
Tyler LeBron, get in here.
Okay, now I'm a little bit nervous. I definitely did something wrong, but I don't know what yet. Level 3 was when they used your full government name. First, middle, and last.
Tyler LeBron Vitelli, get down here right now.
At that point, you better pray. You may not know it yet, but you're cooked. That's the point of no return. But the worst level, level 4, was when they got quiet. When they found out you did something bad, and instead of yelling, they just went silent. That was somehow more terrifying than any amount of yelling, because you don't know what they're thinking. You don't know what punishment is coming. You're just sitting there in silence, waiting for the hammer to drop. And the anticipation is worse than anything they could actually do to you. I remember one time, I was throwing the football around in my house with my brother, and of course, my mom told us to stop, but of course, we didn't listen. And eventually, my brother was like,
"Hey, go long for an Odell catch."
Which, if you don't know what an Odell catch is, it's this. So we tried to recreate that, and basically, one thing led to another. I didn't have very good hand-eye coordination, and we broke a window. Our hearts both sank, because right away, our mom, who was in her room, goes,
"What was that noise?"
And she comes furiously walking into the living room. I could tell it was her because my mom always had very distinctive footsteps. And I'm just sitting there, hugging my brother, telling him I love him because I know this is the day we go to heaven. But when she walks in, she looks at the window, looks at both of us, and doesn't say anything. Just keeps staring at us with a terrifying look on her face. And that silence was worse than any amount of yelling or punishment she could have gave us. We knew that we were in trouble, but what we didn't know was what was gonna happen next. That's the worst feeling in the world, the not knowing. Your brain starts imagining every possible punishment. Grounded for a year, no video games ever again, sent to military school, forced to watch a full season of Young Sheldon. The punishment itself usually isn't even that horrible, but the fear leading up to finding out what the punishment would be, that was the real torture. And you'd think this situation couldn't get any worse. But trust me, it could. Because finally, when she does decide to speak, she goes,
"Wait till your father gets home."
If you grew up with a father, that sounded like a diss to people who didn't grow up with a father. I didn't mean it like that. Basically what I'm saying is, if you've ever heard your mom say that sentence, you know that's a death sentence. Because when your mom said this, you had hours to think about what was gonna happen. You're just sitting in your room knowing that you're about to get a punishment you could only imagine happening in a Call of Duty mission, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't run, you can't escape, you just have to sit there and wait for your demise. So my dad gets home that night, and by the way, between the time where we broke the window and my dad got home, my mom literally did not talk to me the whole time. And when my dad finally did get home, he already knew the situation. My mom must have texted it to him because he walks into the front door and I'm in my room just waiting, and I hear him slam the front door behind him. And I know the next thing that's getting slammed is me. I'm starting to realize that I'm just making it sound like my parents beat me as a child, so I just want to make it clear, they did not do that. I'm just using words like slam to make the story more dramatic. But my dad comes marching down to my room. Once again, I knew it was him because he had distinctive footsteps too, and he opens my door and says,
"Tyler, what did you do to the window?"
I broke it playing football.
What?
I broke it playing football.
Did mom say you could play football in the house?
No. When I answered that question, without saying another word, he just started unplugging stuff in my room. First it was my PlayStation, then my TV, then my umbilical cord, and he just put all these things in their closet where I couldn't get to it. They didn't tell me how long they were taking it away or anything. And that was the day I had to learn how to meditate. Just stared at a wall for the rest of the day. They still never gave me any of my technology back, by the way. And I know what you're thinking. Well, how are you recording this video if you don't have any technology? I'm not. This video is just a figment of your imagination. Nothing is real. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. So the fear of parents is absolutely justified until you get to about 13 years old and you become stronger than your parents. The next fear I'm gonna tell you about, once again, we all had this. Matter of fact, if you didn't have this, I would call you the crazy one, because I'm talking about the fear of sharks. But for me, this fear was a little different because I wasn't scared of sharks in the ocean. No, I knew I could just avoid those. My fear was about sharks in the pool. Yes, the 4-foot pool in my neighborhood with chlorine in it. I genuinely thought a shark could somehow teleport into there like it had powers or something. And this wasn't just a passing thought or a little worry in the back of my mind. This fear was so real that it's one of the main reasons I didn't learn how to swim until very late in my life. I'm saying that like I learned how to swim at 60. I mean very late in my life up to now. But everyone thought I was just being lazy or that I was scared of water in general, and that's why I never learned how to swim. Like my parents would try to convince me to get in the pool and I would just be like,
Nah.
and they would just think it was because I
Didn't want to exercise.
But no. Well, yeah, it kind of was because of that too. But I was specifically scared that if I went into the deep end of my pool, Jaws would be chilling there waiting for me like it's his lunch break. I'd check the pool before getting in like I'm checking for bombs, walking around the perimeter, looking into the deep end from above, making sure there's no suspicious movements in the water. And even after checking, I'd still only stay in the shallow end where I could see the bottom clearly and my feet could touch the ground. Going to the deep end? Absolutely not. That's where the sharks were hiding. That's their territory. I'm not going over there. I value my life. And deep down, I knew this fear made no sense. But there was just one small part of my brain, well, I guess every part of my brain is
Probably pretty small.
but this part was telling me that there's a shark in that pool. But what if I told you I had another water-related fear that was even more specific and somehow more terrifying? Yep, you guessed it, because the other water fear I had was snakes being in the toilet while I was pooping. Let me explain, because this one actually kept me up at night. So sometime during my childhood, I saw a news story about a snake that came up through toilet pipes. I'm pretty sure this happened in Australia or something because everything happens there with animals. I don't know how y'all do it. I see videos of people sleeping with 15-foot spiders like it's nothing. But once I learned this information that snakes could crawl through your toilet pipes, I could never unlearn it. It was burned into my brain forever. So every time I had to use the bathroom, I would just think about the possibility of a snake being in there. I would check the toilet seat every single time before sitting down. Look into the bowl, make sure there's nothing suspicious going on down there, and then give it a flush just to be safe. Sometimes I'd even hover over the seat instead of actually sitting on it because I was so paranoid that the moment I sat down, a snake would strike. I was sitting there while taking a dookie in a 3-point stance like an offensive lineman. But here's where it gets even more scary. Remember the pool shark fear? Well, imagine having both of these fears at the exact same time. Because one day I was at a pool party and I was already nervous about being in the water because of the shark thing. But finally, I built up the courage to go in because I didn't want to look like a loser in front of everyone. So I'm in the pool, but for some reason, going in the pool always makes me have to poop. And now I'm faced with a dilemma. Do I stay in the pool with a potential shark or do I go to the bathroom where there's a potential snake? After saying that sentence out loud, I'm really starting to realize that I sound schizophrenic. But to me, the answer was obvious of what to do in this situation. I'm just gonna poop in the pool, or at least that's what I would have done if I was brave. But in reality, I just went to the bathroom and it ended up being perfectly fine. And you wanna know a little secret? I still check toilets before I sit down. Because although the chances of getting bit by a snake while taking a dookie are low, they're never zero. This is a fear I don't know why I had because it's not even realistic for this to actually ever happen. So I'd give this like a 10% chance of actually coming true. Speaking of irrational fears, why the heck were we all taught to fear quicksand growing up? I genuinely thought that this was gonna be a daily problem in my life. Like it would just be everywhere. Beach, desert, my backyard. I figured anywhere there was sand, there was quicksand. Every cartoon and movie made quicksand seem unavoidable. Every adventure show, someone got stopped in quicksand. Every jungle scene in a movie, quicksand. So naturally, my kid brain assumed this would be a huge obstacle in my life. But here's the thing, I've been alive a lot of years, and to this day, I've never seen quicksand. Not once. Beaches, deserts, hiking trips, different countries, and I've still never encountered it. Turns out quicksand is rare and not even that dangerous. Most places with quicksand aren't even deep enough to fully submerge you. If you actually did encounter it, you'd probably get stuck and then just pull yourself out and be fine. I could have put all this energy worrying about quicksand towards something useful, like getting a job. This fear was not valid because there's basically no chance of ever finding quicksand, but it made sense why we were all scared of it growing up. But I promise you, there is a fear that surpasses anything else I've mentioned so far. A fear that literally gives me goosebumps just to think about, and that is the fear of women. When I was growing up, and still low-key today, I was genuinely terrified of women. I'm talking full-blown panic attacks whenever a girl talked to me. My brain would just shut down. And that's normal when you're first growing up, but usually once you get to about middle school, you grow out of that phase. You start to realize, hey, I don't want to play with Legos no more. I'm trying to riz up my classmates. And that's what all my friends started to do, except for me. I just could not figure it out. Like, you grow up watching movies and TV shows where guys are supposed to be smooth and confident and know exactly what to say. They walk up to a girl, say some witty line, and boom, she's in love. Easy. But in real life, whenever you put a girl in front of me, I somehow forgot every word in the English language. Every interaction was just a disaster waiting to happen. A girl would say hi to me in the hallway, and I'd respond with some weird noise that wasn't even a word. It would just be like this.
Hey, Tyler.
Oh my gosh. And after that, the girl would just give me a look that said, this guy might be taking a bus that's slightly smaller than ours to school every day. And the absolute worst part of this fear was asking girls out. I could barely order food at a restaurant without stuttering. And now you want me to ask a girl to be my girlfriend? That's not gonna end well. It's probably why I still haven't had a girlfriend to this day. But one day, I finally worked up the courage to ask someone out. There was this girl in my English class, let's call her Sarah. She was way out of my league. But my friends kept telling me,
Bro, she totally likes you. Just go for it.
Side note, if your friends ever tell you this girl totally wants you, they are lying and they just want to see you shoot an air ball when asking her out. They're saying it for their own amusement. Do not trust them. So I spent an entire week planning what I was going to say to this girl. I rehearsed it in the mirror. I wrote down different versions in my notes. I was prepared. And this was before my prom disaster that I made a video about, if you guys haven't seen that before. So one day after class, I see Sarah at her locker and I'm thinking, this is it. This is my moment. I'm going to do it. And I walk over there, heart pounding, palms sweating, probably looking like I'm about to pass out, and I tap her on the shoulder. She turns around and smiles at me. But that smile made my brain completely reset. Everything I planned, gone. Every word I rehearsed, couldn't remember. So I'm standing there, mouth open, no words coming out, and she's just looking at me like,
Yes?
Eventually, I finally managed to say, you want to hung out? I didn't even use the word hang. I accidentally said hung out. But then her response is,
Oh.
and that oh told me everything I needed to know. That was not a good oh. That was a, I'm about to reject you and I feel bad about it. Oh. And then she goes,
That's really sweet, but I actually have a boyfriend.
now, did I appreciate that she was letting me down easy and not being mean? Yeah, of course. But at the same time, I knew she was lying. This girl did not have a boyfriend. I was friends with people who were friends with her, and she was the most single person they knew outside of me. Of course, by the next day, everyone knew about it. The whole school knew I got rejected. This fear is fully justified because it's scary to put yourself out there and talk to people, which is why I don't. I really need to get over this fear though, because I'm starting to get really lonely, dog. And my parents want grandchildren, but I don't think that's happening, let's be real. Still have hope. Anyways, I had a lot of fears that came from absolutely nowhere. Like closing my eyes while in the shower, for example. I would rather let my eyes burn from shampoo running into my pupils than actually close them and let something attack me. This was not a valid fear at all. I was just being an idiot. Another fear I had was being scared of sleeping with my leg or arm hanging off the bed. This one was obvious. Once again, it was just because of monsters. This next fear is something I will be scared of till the day I die. And I think you should be scared of it too, because I'm talking about animatronics. I know these robots that are trying to look friendly, but in reality, they just look like they want to harvest your organs, aren't actually alive, right? This isn't Five Nights at Freddy's. They don't actually come to life or anything like that. Well, let's see if you change your mind after this story I'm about to tell you. Because when I was younger, I had a birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese. And if you don't know what this place is, it's basically the same place as Five Nights at Freddy's. So everything's going fine at first. I'm playing games, eating pizza that probably has cardboard in it, but I don't care because I'm 6 years old and my taste buds aren't developed yet. And I'm having a good time with my friends. But then, my parents call us over to sit down because the animatronic show was about to start. So the lights in this place dim, the music starts playing, and these robots come to life on stage. At first, I'm just watching from my table thinking, yeah, they're a little creepy looking, but also kind of cool. And I was also probably thinking about peeing my pants because I was 6. Wait, do people still pee their pants at 6 years old? I don't know, but I did. But anyways, mid-performance, one of the animatronics started to malfunction. And I'm not talking a little hiccup, I'm talking full-on malfunction. The head starts turning the wrong way and it's buffering, repeating the same line over and over again. It's a mess. So I do what any other 6-year-old would do in this situation, and I pee my pants. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't do that this time. But what I did was run away and go back to playing skee ball. I didn't want to watch any more of this show because it was was freaking me out. This was starting to feel like Five Nights at Freddy's before Five Nights at Freddy's even existed, because I saw the robots malfunctioning as a warning sign. I thought they were becoming self-aware and they were about to attack us. You call it schizophrenia, I call it preparation. So after this nightmare show was finished, I thought it was over. I wouldn't have to deal with these animatronics anymore. But a couple minutes later, I get called back over to the table again, but this time, everyone was gonna sing me happy birthday. But guess who came out to deliver my cake? That's right, the man himself, Diddy. Wait, no, I mean Chucky. Chucky brought the cake out. The mouse that the name is placed after. Not Diddy. Diddy wasn't there, I promise. Or at least I hope. Anyways, so Chucky comes to my table and everyone's singing me happy birthday. I'm still kind of terrified because of what happened earlier and the fact that I hate getting happy birthday sung to me. But right as the song is about to finish, Chucky gets really close to my face to put the cake down. And when he does that, I look into Chucky's mouth and that's when I see it. Through the mesh in the mouth of the costume, I can see a real person's eyes looking at me. I can just see them blinking. There's a whole human being inside this rat costume. And somehow that made everything 10 times worse. Cause I was 5. I thought the real Chucky was just pulling up to my party. I didn't think there was actually a human being behind there. So I start crying, and not like a little sniffle. I'm talking full meltdown, tears everywhere, screaming. Everyone at the party is staring at me wondering what happened. Chucky's trying to calm me down, but every time he takes a step closer to me, I start throwing out haymakers at him. My parents grab me and take me outside to try to calm me down, but there's no point. We had to leave the party early. I didn't even get to finish my cake or spend my tickets. Just had to leave in shame because I couldn't handle Chuck E. Cheese. From that day on, any animatronic or mascot costume terrified me. If I went to Disneyland, I'd avoid the mascots there like they had the plague. My parents thought I would grow out of this, but I didn't. So yes, this fear was fully justified. I don't care what any of you guys. I have a question for you. Does this look like something that belongs in a kid's show, or is it just terrifying? If you said that was just straight up horrifying, I'd agree with you. And that's exactly why I'm making this video today, because there are many kids, movies, and shows we've all seen that should not be meant for children. But the weird thing about these programs was that no one can tell if they were actually meant to scare children or if that was just by accident. So today, we're going through movies and shows we all watched that had no business being shown to kids. Monster House. If you haven't seen this movie, here's the setup. There's a kid named DJ who lives in a normal suburban neighborhood. Across the street from where he lived is a rundown mansion owned by a terrifying old man named Nebercracker. Now, the best way I could describe this dude is, I don't know what kind of car he drove, but I wouldn't have been surprised if it was a white van. Hopefully you're picking up what I'm putting down. Whenever any kid gets even remotely close to Nebercracker's lawn, he explodes out of the front door screaming like he's at the kidnapping Olympics. He's like the dude in Hello Neighbor, but times a million. And the worst thing that could possibly happen as a kid is losing your ball, your frisbee, or anything in his backyard because you will never see it again. Now, like I said, everyone had a neighbor like this growing up, so it's not out of the ordinary. But what I forgot to mention about this movie is that the house is alive and trying to eat children. Then you meet the victims of this movie. DJ and his 2 friends Chowder and a girl named Jenny, who shows up selling Halloween candy and is by far the least dumb person in the whole movie. Now, DJ and Chowder always had their theories about this creepy house. Jenny was a bit skeptical about the house being alive because if someone told you their house was alive, you would probably get them put into a mental hospital. Early in the movie, Nebercracker has a heart attack during a confrontation with DJ and he gets taken away by an ambulance. Not too out of the ordinary. I remember the first time I scared an old man enough to make him have a heart attack. Like, we've all done that before. Back in the old days, he probably would have snatched DJ up and put him in the basement. But that didn't happen here. And since Nebercracker got taken by the ambulance, the house was empty. But what we didn't realize at first is this Nebercracker was keeping the house in check. So when he left, the house started doing whatever it wanted, which is primarily trying to consume people and their belongings. It sucks a police car directly through its front door. And if you're a police officer, what do you even put on the report for that? House ate my car? They're locking you up in the mental hospital too, buddy. But here's where Monster House separates itself from being a movie meant for kids that feels slightly spooky to something a whole lot more terrifying. Because Nebercracker's wife, Constance, was a large woman. Not trying to be mean, just stating the facts. And her entire life, neighborhood kids tormented her constantly. Every Halloween, they'd show up to mock her, throw things at her house, scream at her. It was just what the kids did. It's the same thing kids do every time they see me in the McDonald's drive-thru line. Seriously, please stop. And it used to be considered funny, but one Halloween, it escalated. There was a confrontation, and Constance fell and died. Nebercracker, because he loved his Pookie so much, and because grief does terrible things to people's decision-making, he finished building the house on top of her. And Constance's soul, which has spent decades being humiliated and furious, and never once getting to just exist in peace, fused with the house itself. She became the house. And no, that is not a fat joke. It's actually a good one though. But anyways, the tongue of the house is Constance. The uvula is also Constance. When the house eats toys and bikes and small children's belongings, that's Constance reacting to people bothering her. Which means Nevercracker wasn't necessarily the villain after all. He just tried to keep Constance under control. Every kid he scared away was a kid he was keeping from being eaten. He was protecting the entire neighborhood from his wife, and everyone thought he was just a mean old man. Monster House was a movie made for kids, and the plot of it was a story about a man whose wife died and started eating children. Now, why would you make a film about eating children that is directed to children? Did the people who created this just want kids to stay out of their yard, so they decided this is the only way to do that? But it's not even the plot itself that makes it super creepy. The animation style makes you super uncomfortable in a way that's hard to explain, but you feel it instantly. It's animated, but the characters move like real humans, but slightly off. It's super uncanny. And then the house itself was enough to give me nightmares. When it screams, you can see it has a door with way too many teeth. The house's front windows, which are Constance's eyes, track you as you move down the street. It's not jump scare scary, but super uncomfortable. But this one scene inside the house is where my nightmares really came from. The kids have to go inside to find the furnace, which is the house's heart. And navigating the interior of the house is like navigating a body from the inside. The carpet rolls and grabs you, the furniture moves, you're inside a living creature and it knows you're there. Now, I'm not a doctor, so I don't want to see what the inside of people's bodies look like. If I did want to see that, I would have went to medical school. Actually, that's not true because I wasn't even smart enough to pass regular school. But you get the point. Eventually, DJ, Chowder, and Jenny throw dynamite into the chimney, burning the house and freeing Constance's soul. This is starting to sound like a GTA mission. Once Constance leaves, the house leaves with her, and all that is lefty is an empty plot of land. Nevercracker cries seeing Constance's soul leave, which makes you feel bad for the guy, because all he was trying to do was protect the neighborhood from his deceased wife this whole time. To be fair, he is the reason there was a living house in the first place, and people did die, but hey, everyone makes mistakes, right? Story ends when the credits roll, and when the credits roll, you are never the same, because 10-year-old you thought you were gonna watch a movie about a monster in a house. Instead, you watched something about a freaky house that has a tongue and eats children. Now you got generational trauma. Monster House was a great film. It shouldn't be a children's film though. SpongeBob. Now I know what most of you guys are saying. SpongeBob wasn't scary, and while most of the episodes of SpongeBob were wholesome and enjoyable for all ages, there were certain episodes that were
Different.
like there's an episode called The Graveyard Shift. SpongeBob and Squidward have to work the overnight shift at the Krusty Krab. Squidward, being Squidward, decides the best use of his time is to terrorize SpongeBob with a horror story. The story is about a former fry cook who cut off his own hand, replaced it with a spatula, got hit by a bus, and now comes back to haunt the Krusty Krab every night at the witching hour looking for his next victim. Who is this former cook? The hash-slinging slasher. If you've ever watched this episode of SpongeBob, I probably just instantly gave you some PTSD. Now when SpongeBob hears this story, he's instantly terrified. But as a viewer, you're thinking Squidward is just making this up to scare him. The exact signs from the story actually start happening in real life. The lights flicker, the phone rings, and there's nobody on the other end. If you're a kid watching this, you're not too worried. But then Squidward gets scared. And Squidward is never scared. Depressed? Probably. Annoyed? Obviously. But you never see him scared. So when Squidward starts genuinely panicking, you start getting scared too. Because every other episode you watch of this show is about SpongeBob chasing jellyfish in a field lollygagging around enjoying life. But for there to randomly be an episode where a killer fry cook is haunting them, it switches the tone completely. But then the ending happens. The bus shows up, the same one the hash-slinging slasher got hit by, and someone hops off it looking exactly like the person from the story. And they creepily head toward the front door of the Krusty Krab, only for you to realize it's not some deranged killer, it's just a nerdy teenager applying for a job at a bad time. The flickering lights are just the lights doing that because the wiring in the building isn't up to code, which makes sense considering the fact that they're underwater and it's probably hard to get good electricity in there. The phone sound was just an automated system, so everything works out in the end. But the first 90% of that episode genuinely scared real children, including me. It's not the fact that this episode was super terrifying when you compare it to an actual horror movie, but it was that usually this show was so upbeat and jolly, so you weren't ready for this to happen. It's like if you get punched in the face when you're not expecting it, you'll probably get knocked out, but if you're warned before getting punched in the face, you can brace for impact and still probably get knocked out, so I don't know why I made that comparison, but yeah, let's just move on actually. Then there's the episode called Rock Bottom. This one doesn't have any jump scares, but it's just pure dread for the whole episode. So SpongeBob and Patrick go to an amusement park, stay too late, and miss their bus home. SpongeBob ends up on the wrong bus and gets dropped off at Rock Bottom, which is a place that exists below the ocean floor, deeper than Bikini Bottom, a place that's darker, stranger, and operates on different rules than Bikini Bottom. And the episode is literally just SpongeBob trying to get home. He keeps trying to catch the bus back, but every single time time, right as he's about to make it, the bus leaves without him. And the residents of Rock Bottom speak in a language that sounds almost like English, but not quite, so SpongeBob cannot understand a single word they're saying, and nobody can help him. Now that I think about it, the language low-key just sounded like how I am when I try to talk to a girl. I'm trying to get my words out, but it just doesn't make sense. This episode is scary for one reason. Did you ever actually physically get jump scared? No, but for the whole duration of the episode, something just didn't sit right with you. But it wasn't even full episodes itself that would be scary, because during completely random episodes, when you're least expecting it, they would randomly pop pictures on the screen of non-animated characters like Nosferatu or real live butterflies. It would literally just be at a random moment. And while these may not sound horrifying, seeing something that is not animated in a show that is entirely animated would give you a really weird feeling. My question is, why did the creators of the show even put these moments in? Were they just trying to give a generation of kids trauma?
Hey, you know what would be funny? What if we put a photo of one of the scariest horror characters of all time right in the middle of the episode without any context?
Won't that, like, traumatize the kids? Yeah. Okay.
SpongeBob is one of the greatest shows of all time, but sometimes I wonder what they were trying to do in those creepy episodes. But there is no debate that Teletubbies absolutely is creepy. I don't care what age you are, those little things were terrifying. Teletubbies was created specifically for children aged 1 to 4 years old. When I was 1 to 4 years old, I was busy peeing and pooping my pants every day, which I still do today, but at least now it doesn't happen when I'm sleeping. I don't really know what the point of me admitting that was, but what I'm trying to say is the target audience of this show is literally people who can't talk yet. Imagine spawning into this world and this is what you're being shown. I don't even know if anyone found the Teletubbies as terrifying as I did, but if you don't understand why they scare me so much, let me help you understand. The Teletubbies are 4 large humanoid creatures, brightly colored, they have antennae growing directly out of their heads, and televisions built directly into their stomachs. The televisions are part of their body. Their names are Tinky Winky, Dipsy, Lala, and Po. They live in a dome in a field where the grass is unnaturally green, and everything about this world they live in was slightly off. In the sky there's a sun, and the sun has a baby's face in it. There's literally no context given about this baby sun or why it's there, but it's there. Like, is the baby the ruler of the Teletubbies? Is it keeping them trapped in this dome? I have no idea, and I want answers. But here's the thing that made this show really eerie, because I can get past the weird shapes of their bodies or the fact that there's a laughing baby just floating in the sky, but the part that made this whole show too freaky was how they talked. They basically spoke in a language of gibberish, so you could never actually understand what they were saying. In any other kids show, like Bluey, or actually that's the only other toddler show I can think of. Elmo. But in these shows, they speak a real language. They speak American. But in the Teletubbies, you have no idea what they're saying to each other at all times, which is a big issue because it makes you wonder what they're talking about. For all I know, they were calling me chopped through the TV screen. But oh, don't worry, there's one person in this show that speaks a real language. It just happens to not be an actual person, and instead, it's a metal tube called voice trumpets. They come out of the ground, a voice comes out of them, the voice has no source, it simply emerges from the earth and announces things. The Teletubbies respond to the voice from the ground like this is just completely normal. Now, if it sounds to you like I haven't really given a plot for this show and I'm basically just describing the setting of this place, you're right, that is what I'm doing, because there basically is no plot to it. It's just the gibberish speaking Teletubbies wandering around with no purpose or mission in life staring at you like this. Now, if I described that to you without telling you it was a children's show, what would you have guessed? The thing that is most uncanny about these Teletubbies is their smile. It never stops. Their bodies move, but the smile is fixed, so you can't tell how they're ever feeling. If they're angry, still smiling. Sad, still smiling. And if you're thinking, Tyler, you're being dramatic. You're the only one that thinks the Teletubbies are scary. You are wrong, because psychologists have actually written about how Teletubbies unsettle viewers. Now, to be fair, I only read the headline of this article and I didn't actually click on it, so I could be lying for all I know, but I'm just gonna trust what the title said. The reason the Teletubbies don't talk and that there's weird colors is because it's a show literally meant for children. It's not supposed to make sense to me, but to that I say, give me one other show meant for children that's this terrifying. You probably can't, because most kids shows are wholesome and don't give you nightmares. But remember, that's just most kids shows, not all of them. Because I've gotta admit, we've gone over some creepy shows and movies so far, but for me, there is nothing that made me more uncomfortable as a child than Courage the Cowardly Dog. This show ran on Cartoon Network, and if you've ever watched Cartoon Network before, you'd probably understand why. Cartoon Network was where the shows that were kinda made for kids, but were a little too off-putting to be somewhere like Nickelodeon would all go. This was not a kids show that occasionally got dark. This was a horror series that aired for kids because someone at Cartoon Network either didn't watch it carefully enough to understand, or they were just a villain that wanted kids to experience this. Here's the setup. Courage is a small, anxious pink dog who lives with an elderly couple in a farmhouse. The wife is Muriel, and she's like any other old country lady. She's super sweet and kind. The husband is Eustace. He's selfish and mean, and he wears a mask specifically to scare Courage just whenever he feels like it. Sounds like animal abuse if you ask me. They live in the middle of nowhere. Literally, that's the actual name of the town. Nowhere, Kansas. They've got no neighbors, no community, just it's a show meant for kids. It's supposed to be basically brain rot. I want to see bright colors and a bunch of sound effects that fry my dopamine receptors, not learn lessons about life. Where's the Cocomelon? Courage the Cowardly Dog was a horror show, and no one can convince me otherwise, except for LeBron. He could convince me to do basically anything. I mean, if he asked me to oil up, I would do it. If I found $1 million on the ground, I'd give it to him. I don't care if he's a billionaire already. But you know who I would never do anything for? Young Sheldon, which is the next show we've got to talk about. And I'm gonna keep it short because honestly, Young Sheldon doesn't deserve a long segment. You guys may say, Tyler, Young Sheldon is literally the furthest thing from a creepy show. How could this possibly be on the list? Well, to that, I would argue Young Sheldon is the scariest show in this video, and it's not even close. Why is it so scary? I don't have any actual good reason. I just have beef with Young Sheldon, so I had to find a way to put him on this list. If you gave me two options, with the first being to sit in a pool filled with piranhas that have not eaten in 5 days, or watch a full episode of Young Sheldon without being able to look away from the screen, I would get my swim trunks on immediately. Young Sheldon, you give me nightmares. Now let's cool the temperature down a little bit and talk about a show that isn't quite as scary as Young Sheldon, but still gives me the heebie-jeebies to watch as a child. Arguably the most successful horror franchise ever, which is aimed specifically for children. If you somehow don't know Goosebumps, horror stories for kids. Different nightmare every episode, each one designed to scare you. The covers of Goosebumps books had the melting fonts and the creepy illustrations, and teachers put them in school libraries. Goosebumps was the first horror show specifically made for children. I have no idea how these shows were approved for a younger audience. Like I, as a 22-year-old, no, actually, my birthday just happened, so I'm a 33-year-old. No, a 223-year-old. Okay, I still get scared watching them today. They literally advertised, hey, this show will probably make your children wet the bed. And yet, children still continued to watch it. Slappy the Dummy is the face of Goosebumps, but he is the furthest thing from a dummy. He is a ventriloquist dummy, which is already terrifying even if he didn't come to life, but he does, of course. And he comes to life when you read a specific set of words written on a piece of paper inside his jacket pocket. Once he's awake, he immediately informs you you are a slave. He decides what happens. You just have to be a good boy and accept whatever he decides to do. If he tells you to make him breakfast, buddy, you better turn on the air fryer. He's got a terrifying smile on his face that never goes away, just like the Teletubbies, so you can't read him. There's something so uncanny about Slappy that disturbs you. His eyes track you. He looks calm at all times, but the funny thing is, in every episode where Slappy is the evil villain, everyone basically accepts it and doesn't try to do anything about it. Like, oh well, this ventriloquist dummy controls my life now. It is what it is. But y'all aren't thinking hard enough, because if I'm in that show, I'm putting Slappy in the shredder. But just in case dolls that come to life are actually real and they're watching this video, I'm just joking, guys. I'm just joking. I'm only trying to look tough for my audience.
Trust me, I'd be a good boy and do whatever you told me, so please leave me alone.
But there are two specific episodes of Goosebumps I remember vividly because of how terrifying they were. First is the one where a Halloween mask permanently fuses to a girl's face and slowly takes over her body and mind. Remember, this show is made for kids. And then you have the Ghost Next Door episode that has a huge twist. Throughout the whole episode, you're following what you assume is a kid stuck in a horrible ghost story. But at the very end, it's revealed that the kid you've been following the whole time is the ghost. But here's the weirdest part. Although I literally would cry at some of the Goosebumps episodes as a child, which honestly isn't saying much because I would cry at anything. Like I cried at my grandma's funeral, which that's probably a horrible example because everyone cries at funerals. But even though this show scared me so much, I would always come back for more. I was addicted to watching every episode, even though I knew if I did watch it, I probably wasn't getting any sleep that night. And I don't get good sleep as it is. Just look at these eye bags. Seriously though, if anyone knows how to fix eye bags, please comment below. But that's the trend with all these shows and movies. Although they terrified you, there was something about them that just made you want to keep coming back for more. Except Young Sheldon. I never came back for more of that show.
Hello. Today, we are going to be playing a little game. I'm going to give you a list with the most famous horror villains of all time, and you are going to decide which ones you think you could beat. But what's the catch? Well, if you...
Hello? Okay, 1 second, mommy, I'm filming something. Anyways, Michael Myers, Pennywise, and every horror icon you've ever been afraid of, what do they all have in common? Well, they're actually very easy to defeat. Because behind these characters' spooky masks and rusty weapons is a secret they don't want you to know. None of these villains would be scary at all if their victims were all total idiots. So today, we pull back the curtain and I'm gonna break down all the legendary horror villains that I, a regular person with 2 working feet, half a brain, and mild constipation, I could definitely avoid being slaughtered by them. At the end of this video, you will never look at these villains the same way again. Before we even start dissecting the killers themselves, we have to address the single most important reason why any of these horror characters are ever successful in the first place. And why is that? They just get lucky because everyone in these movies has the survival skills of a houseplant. Frankly, it's a miracle that the victims in these horror movies even manage to dress themselves in the morning. So no surprise they can't survive being hunted by these villains. The golden rules of being a horror movie victim is number 1, hear a strange, terrifying noise in the dark, empty basement, signaling that something dangerous is clearly down there. And if you go look to see what it is, you will not come back, and then you go investigate it alone, preferably unarmed. And you must always announce your presence when investigating by saying, "Hello, is anyone there?" As if the serial killer is gonna politely respond, "Yes, in here, with the chainsaw." Rule number 2, when being chased by a killer who is walking at a chill, normal pace, you must never, ever run out the front door to safety. No, you must run upstairs, trapping yourself on the 2nd floor with no exits. Why are we doing this instead of just running outside where you could get help? Rule number 3, if you manage to knock the killer down and get their weapon, you must immediately drop the weapon next to their unconscious body and run away, instead of, finishing the job. And I'm not even exaggerating how dumb horror victims are. Think about it. Michael Myers' slow walk is only menacing because his victims have the spatial awareness of a Roomba. They're always running into dead ends or tripping over thin air. The whole Scream franchise is basically making fun of this exact thing. The characters literally sit around discussing the rules of horror movies and then proceed to break every single one of them. They answer the creepy phone call, they open the door, they go to a massive house party in the middle of a killing spree. They have all the knowledge of how to survive, but none of the common sense. It's like watching someone read a book titled How to Not Get Eaten by a Lion and then actively climbing into the lion enclosure at the zoo. So when I say I can beat these villains, what I'm really saying is that I can beat them because I am not required by a Hollywood script to have a brain made of wet cardboard. And the first villain I'm so confident I could defeat is in a category I like to call just a guy. These are the villains that, when you take away the creepy music, when you turn the lights on, when you mute the deafening jump scare sound effects, you realize they're just people. Regular, normal, probably has a normal job on the side, people running around in costumes they most likely bought at a Spirit Halloween that's a Macy's during the rest of the year. They're probably doom scrolling in their free time just like me and you, making 6-7 jokes. The only difference between them and us is we keep the psychotic thoughts in our head. They act on them. And one villain that perfectly describes what I'm saying is Ghostface. For those of you who haven't seen the Scream movies, Ghostface is someone who stalks people and toys with them before attacking. He'll call his victims on the phone, ask creepy questions, which usually leads to these people doing something stupid and walking right into his trap. So let's be honest about Ghostface. The whole gimmick, the main idea of the whole series is that the killer could be anyone. Like the person next to you could be the killer. It could be your best friend, your boyfriend, your weird teacher that gets uncomfortably close to you. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Mr. Stevenson. I still never forgot about that. But here's the flip side of that coin. Because the killer could be anyone, it's usually just some teenage kid that goes to your school. It's probably someone who, let's be real, you knew someday something like this would happen with them. And you're telling me that I'm supposed to be scared of Jimmy from 4th period history class just because he put on a mask and a voice changer? Have you ever actually watched Ghostface try to do anything? It's less like watching a master assassin and more like a live action blooper reel from America's Funniest Home Videos. This dude is basically a walking cartoon character slipping on a banana peel. Like there will literally be parts of the movie where I have to check to see if this is supposed to be a comedy or a horror film. It's a miracle he manages to have any victims at all. He trips over couches, he gets knocked out by his own bad driving, he runs face first into doors he just opened. Like if you watch the scenes where he's chasing someone and just switch out the scary music with some circus music, you realize this man is not scary at all. And if you think I'm exaggerating, I'm not, because there are entire compilations online dedicated to Ghostface tripping, falling, getting stuck in garage doors, and being completely beaten by normal stuff you find in a house. One of his most iconic moments is literally getting taken out by a small 90s era television. Ghostface is just a dude, let's be real, or a girl, I don't discriminate, but they don't got any powers. Literally, like if you wanted to right now, you could go on Amazon, buy the whole outfit, and become the next Ghostface. Okay, don't do that. But in theory, you could. But like I said, don't do that. I'm also pretty sure Ghostface has asthma because if you ever watch them chase people, they get winded after like one flight of stairs. He's got the lung capacity of a goldfish in a puddle. And I know what you're thinking. Okay, Tyler, you talk a big game, but how are you gonna defeat him? Well, the strategy to beat Ghostface is simple. Step 1, don't play his game. He calls you with that stupid, gravelly voice, asking what your favorite scary movie is. You know what you do? Hang up, block the number, done. His whole game depends on you being terrified. So if when he calls, you just do this, Hello?
You like scary movies?
Nope, not today. He ain't doing anything. He needs you to be scared, to answer his questions, to run upstairs instead of out the front door, which I still don't understand. But when you're not playing his game, his whole plan just falls apart. And if that doesn't work and he still tries chasing after you, just fight back. Stop running. Remember, it's just Jimmy from history class playing dress up. The person in that mask chasing you is probably afraid to do a presentation in front of the whole class, and you're running from them. But if you think Ghostface would be easy to defeat, what if I told you there was a horror character that was even easier to get past? Don't believe me? Well, imagine watching a horror movie and the killer that everyone is so terrified of is a doll from Build-A-Bear Workshop. No, seriously, that's actually a real thing. And you all know what I'm talking about, because the next villain I'm sliming out is Chucky the doll. I know, I can already hear the keyboards furiously typing, but he's not just a doll. He's possessed by a serial killer. Listen, I've seen the movies. It sounds scary on paper, but at the end of the day, he is still a 2-foot plastic doll. I'm a full-grown adult human. Okay, maybe I don't act like one, but I am. The whole reason Chucky's a successful villain is because he relies on two things: the element of surprise and his victims not believing a doll can actually talk and wield a knife. But once your homeboy gets put 6 feet underground by Chucky and you realize, oh snap, Chucky isn't just a normal Barbie doll, there's no excuse for him to get you. He's got these tiny, stubby plastic legs, which I also kind of have, but not as bad as his, meaning I can only walk at a normal, leisurely pace, not even jogging, just a brisk walk, and I could still leave him completely in the dust. He also has molded plastic hands that can barely grip his little kitchen knife. Like you could disarm him like you're taking a Sharpie away from a toddler. This is a POV of what I'm doing if Chucky the doll tries getting me. Oh my gosh, the doll's alive. What do I do? Oh wait, I have an idea. A single, well-aimed kick, not even a powerful one, just a solid punt, would send his little redhead flying across the room like a game-winning field goal. We're talking 40, maybe 50 yards. Easy. The Chucky movies themselves repeatedly tell you what his weaknesses are. The longer his soul is trapped in the doll, the more human it becomes. This is presented as a bad thing for him, but it's a great thing for us. It means he can feel pain, he can bleed, and most importantly, he can be put down. Chucky only ever wins because his victims are literally small children, so they're low-key the same size, which that's kind of messed up, Chucky, if I'm being real. Or it's an adult that just stands there in shock because a toy is talking, so they freeze and let Chucky stab him in the ankles. And the argument people always have is, oh, well, even when you try to get rid of him, he always comes back. Oh, really? Well, have you tried everything to get rid of him? Because I don't think you have. This is all you gotta do. Step 1, walk over and pick him up by his head like this. Come here, Chuck. Step 2, take his knife. He has the grip strength of a wet napkin. It will not be difficult. Do something smart. Step 3, get rid of him in a smart way. Lock him in a safe. Toss him in a wood chipper. Melt him with a blowtorch. Don't just throw him in the dumpster. You know he's gonna come back if you do that. And I can't lie though. I talk a big game like I would easily destroy Chucky, but when I was younger, I was terrified of him. You can't tell anyone I said this, but one time I had a nightmare that Chucky was chasing me around and I woke up to a fully wet bed. So I went to my parents' room and told them Chucky did it. They didn't believe me. But now that I'm older, I ain't scared of you anymore, Chucky. So I give myself a 95% chance of defeating this. Next up is a villain who's an engineer, a philosopher, and a kidnapper, all while actively dying. Who am I talking about? Jigsaw. Jigsaw is the villain from the Saw movies who kidnaps people and locks them into dangerous traps that are designed to kill them, unless they do exactly what they're told. When they wake up, they hear a recorded message explaining the rules of the game and how much time they have. The trap then starts counting down immediately, forcing them to make a fast decision. If you finish the task in time, you survive. If you don't, the trap kills you. The whole reason Jigsaw does this game is because he believes some people don't value their lives enough. He thinks putting them face to face with death will make them appreciate being alive. Now let's make one thing crystal clear. The traps in the Saw movies are terrifying. That's my worst nightmare. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Well, okay, yeah, I wouldn't. But Jigsaw himself, the guy pulling the strings, he's a terminally ill old man. He's not a physical threat at all. He's pretty much just the old man from the Up movie if Russell never came into his life. So if I ever got put in a Saw game, here's what I would do. Switch up on everyone. In a lot of these games, it's you and another person having to solve this puzzle to escape. But in many of the instances, only one of you can survive. So no offense to whoever I'm going up with, like I'm sure you're a cool person, but I ain't going on that pendulum trap just so someone I barely know can survive. The tricky part about getting out of this horror movie alive is that you don't get a warning. One day, you go into your nearest coffee shop for some matcha, you blink, and next thing you know, you're waking up looking like this. And that's exactly why you shouldn't drink matcha. Jigsaw will put you in these games if you do it. If you get put in these games, there's no chase, no chance to run, or even a chance to use your brain to survive. That makes it kind of scary and a lot harder to survive because in almost every other horror movie, if you just have an IQ over 5, you could survive. So with that in mind, I give myself a 20% chance of surviving in this movie. So for the Scream movies, I give myself an 85% chance of surviving. All right, so we've dealt with the guys who can be beaten by common sense. Now, let's talk about the heavy hitters, the big boys, the ones who have their own theme music that starts playing when they're nearby. Now, they may have a lot more aura, but even these legends are beatable, and I'll show you why. The first one we got is Michael Myers. Michael Myers, he's terrifying, I ain't gonna lie. He can take pretty much infinite damage without getting hurt. He's been shot, stabbed, burned, blown up, and he just keeps on coming. Sounds like an average day in Bakersfield, to be honest. This man does not die. But, and this is a big but, for all his supernatural toughness, he has a massive, glaring, calendar-based weakness, his bizarre obsession with Halloween. This man is the ultimate seasonal employee. He literally only works one day a year, October 31st. So for 364 days, and sometimes 365 during a leap year, Michael Myers is a complete non-issue. You almost have a full year to be literally anywhere else on the entire planet except Illinois, because that's the place he stays for some reason. So when that one day of the year comes around where he decides to go crazy, how do we prepare for it? I don't know, maybe leave the town? Have you ever seen Michael Myers boarding a Delta flight? Didn't think so. He just walks everywhere, very slowly, not even a jog, which I get because he doesn't want to lose aura by running after someone. Like, that's low-key embarrassing. He moves with the urgency of my mom when I'm late for school. The only reason he's successful at getting his victims in these movies is because they're stupid. You're telling me you love your hometown so much that you aren't willing to leave it one day a year so you don't die? You would rather get posted online with some angel wings than leave your home one day a year? I mean, I'm low-key the same way. I never leave my home either, but still. And if you watch the films, one thing you will notice is that whenever someone pulls his mask off, he completely stops doing what he's doing. He could be mid-stab, but if that thing slips off his head, he's immediately stopping what he's doing and prioritizing putting it back on over anything else. He's basically like a bald guy when someone takes their hat from him. So that's his weakness. Homie is just self-conscious. Now that I think about it, he's low-key just one of us for real. Like when he got his mask snatched in the Halloween Ends movie, he spent years hiding in a sewer, getting weak and frail. So while he can take a hit better than the best boxers of all time, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Jake Paul, all you have to do to beat him is just take off his mask and then take a flight to Florida for Halloween. And you're good. So because of that, I give myself a 99% chance of surviving this movie, because why in the world would I be in Illinois anyway? No offense to anyone who lives there, but full offense to anyone who does live in Bakersfield. So you can beat Michael with a plane ticket and a calendar. Easy. Let me know in the comments below which horror movie characters you think you could beat and exactly how you would do it. Also, let me know if there's any other horror movie characters you think I should talk about. Let me know if you think there's anyone on my list you think I'm wrong about. That would just absolutely destroy me, because if we're being real, they probably all would. Five Nights at Freddy's, Poppy Playtime, and every other horror game that has ever been made all have one thing in common. While they might be incredibly scary, they are all beatable. Okay, that's a lie. I've never beaten half these games, but someone out there has. So I'm gonna go through the most famous horror games ever and tell you which ones I would survive if I was actually in the game myself, and which ones I would just give up in. If I'm being real, I would probably give up in all these scenarios, but then the video would only be 30 seconds, and that can't happen. So anyways, before we get into the actual games, we have to rewind a little bit. A while back, I did a video breaking down horror movie villains I could beat. And I said, the only reason horror movie victims ever die is because they make incredibly dumb decisions. They hear a noise in the dark basement and go investigate it alone with no weapon. They'll knock the killer unconscious, hold his weapon in their own hands, look at it, and then place it right back next to his head. But horror games are different from movies, because in a horror game, the controller is in my hands. So if I get slimed out by Huggy Wuggy, it's my fault. So I'm gonna tell you exactly how it would go if I was in every popular horror game, starting off with Five Nights at Freddy's. Let me set the scene for those of you who haven't played this game, or if you just need a refresher. It's your first day at a, trigger warning, I'm gonna say a word some people don't like, but it's your first day at a job, and the role of this job is to be overnight security at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. It's basically Chuck E. Cheese if they ate people. Your work hours are midnight to 6 a.m., and your entire job is to sit in the security office and monitor the building to make sure no one breaks in. Easiest job in the world. You just watch movies all night and then go home in the morning. Except here's what is not included anywhere in the job description. The 4 animatronic characters who perform for children during the day, Freddy the Bear, Bonnie the Bunny, Chica the Chicken, and Foxy the Pirate Fox, they come to life at night. And if they find you, their plan is to stuff your body into an animatronic suit. Not very nice, is it? So how would this horror game go if I was in it? I would die. I would not make it through this job. But what I want to do is walk you through exactly why I wouldn't make it as we meet each character, because there's very good reasoning for why I say this. Let's start off with the main reason I wouldn't make it, the power system. In this game, you have a limited electricity budget for the entire night, and you spend that power checking security cameras, turning on the lights in the hallways on either side of your office, making sure none of the animatronics are there. And if they are, you spend more power closing the 2 doors right next to you. But if your power runs out before 6 a.m., everything shuts off. The doors open, the lights go out, and then then Freddy basically comes and eats your face. So you have to find a way to make a very small amount of power last 6 hours. Unfortunately, I'm just not gonna be able to make that happen. I would be out of power by 2 a.m. on night 1. Like, I'd be doom scrolling from 12 to 2, sucking up all the power, and then boom, I'm cooked. It wouldn't even be because I was checking the monitors and turning the lights on so much that I lost power. No, it would literally be because I can't sit still without my phone for more than 5 seconds. So I would just be using that iPad, but instead of checking security cameras on it, I would be watching AI fruits eat each other. But let's just say that this wasn't a possibility. Say I didn't have access to the internet and only had the same capabilities you have when playing the game. Well, I would still fail because I'm a very anxious person. So I would check cameras constantly in the first hour because every time I looked away, I would immediately need to look back to confirm nothing moved. I do this in real life. Whenever I stay at hotels, I check to make sure the door is locked, I go to bed, and then I get up 5 seconds later thinking I must have just imagined locking it and it's still unlocked. So that's how I would lose a bunch of power. But even if I was able to get rid of that anxiety and not check the camera so often, I promise you, the moment I see one of those animatronics staring into my office, I am shutting that door and leaving it closed until the power goes out. I don't care if I check the hallway again and Bonnie's gone now. If I see an animatronic in that hallway just once, the doors are shutting and they're not opening back up again. I'm also gonna call the police, but that's another story. Remember, this is real life. If this actually happened in your life, you're not choosing to open that door back up. But even then, let's say you've mustered up the courage to open the doors when the animatronics disappear because you're trying to conserve your energy. I'm still not beating the game because the animatronics are all good at different things. Freddy himself is the slow threat. He barely moves on the first nights, kind of like Joe from the show You. He just stalks you from a distance before making his move. But by the later nights in the game, he's fully active. So I would constantly waste my battery checking on him every night just to see if he moved. Bonnie is always the first one to move at the start of every single night. Like, bro is genuinely excited to eat whoever is security for that night. He comes from the left side. He'll position himself just outside your office door in the exact blind spot of the camera angle, which means you cannot confirm he's there without turning on the left hallway light. Chica works the right side, and she would be the one to actually finish me because you can always hear her moving through the kitchen. And let's just be real. If I'm working in the security office for 6 whole hours, chances are I'm gonna get hungry. So if I hear someone in the kitchen, I would think,
maybe the chefs got here early to start cooking up the pizza.
but then when I would actually walk into the kitchen, the only thing being eaten there would be me. Chica knows my weakness is food, and she knows exactly how to take advantage of that. Now for Foxy. If I saw Foxy in real life, I would give up. Because I've had genuine heart palpitations due to Foxy scaring me while playing the game. So just imagine what that would be like in real life. If you're not very familiar with Foxy, he lives behind a curtain in Pirate's Cove. And he will have you checking those cameras more often than I check the Instagram page of the girl I liked to see if she followed me back. She never did. But if you check on Foxy too frequently, he gets agitated and charges at you. If you don't check on him enough, he still sprints at you when you're not looking, and he bangs on your door, which drains your battery. Why would I want to deal with this, especially when I could just accept my fate and go into the afterlife? And even more so considering the fact that I'm an overnight security officer. I'm probably making like $8.50 an hour. I'm already overstimulated enough in life. I don't got time to be thinking about 1,000 things at once, like checking the cameras, looking in the hallways, keeping track of every single animatronic. This is overnight security. I signed up for this because I thought I would be able to clock in, watch those videos of people building houses out of nothing in the middle of the woods, and after 6 hours, go home. The worst part about all this is that if you find a way to actually survive all 5 nights, it doesn't end there because there's like 7 other games. If I went through all those games, this video would be like 3 hours long, and I'm way too lazy to do that. So we're just gonna speed through how the other games would go if I was in them. The second Five Nights at Freddy's game keeps everything from the first, but makes it scarier. The toy animatronics are new versions of the originals, but there's now a puppet in a music box that you actively have to focus on, which means every second you spend managing the puppet is a second you are not watching anything else. And then you got Balloon Boy, who doesn't hurt you directly, but he disables your flashlight so you can't check the vents, and then he laughs at you. And let me tell you right now, if my flashlight stops working while I'm doing this job, once again, I'm accepting my fate. I'll just sit there in the dark like this until I meet my demise.
Okay. We're doing good. Oh, what happened to my flashlight? What happened? You know what? I give up. Come on, just take me. I give up.
The next game in this series is Sister Location, which introduces Baby. This character actually helps you get through the game, so she can escape too. Finally, someone who's actually on my side in this series. This game, I think I could actually survive because I'm too dumb to survive these scenarios on my own, but if I had someone helping me like Baby, at least now I have a chance. Another game in this series is Security Breach, and I would never survive in this because I still can't even beat the game version. Seriously, I've played it for like 25 hours and I still can't do it. Point is, I can't do what this franchise asks of me. The animatronics are terrifying, but the honest truth is I'm not surviving this game mostly because you have to work it. a job. And that's just not something I'm willing to do. So I give myself a 5% chance of surviving Five Nights at Freddy's across all games combined. The only reason I give myself any chance is that if I was actually in the game and not stuck in the chair without being able to move, I would just run out of the exit the moment I hear that music playing and the game would be over. But enough about that haunted pizza restaurant. Let's move on to a haunted toy factory, the home of the game Poppy Playtime. Quick setup for everyone who's never played the game. You're a former employee of Playtime Co., a massive toy company whose entire factory staff vanished without explanation. No warning, no trace of them. But years later, you receive a letter apparently sent from someone still inside the abandoned building. And because you were the kind of person who, after reading a letter from an abandoned factory, thought,
Yeah, I should go there alone.
you decide to go. And the first thing you encounter in this factory is Huggy Wuggy. He is enormous. We're talking close to 10 feet tall, with long arms that hang almost to the floor, a permanent wide smile, and a face that is engineered to look friendly and inviting, but once he gets up close, it's terrifying. Think about how horrifying that is. He is 10 feet tall. That's basically my height. And every time someone sees me in public, they make this face. So I'm assuming they would do the same if they saw him. Huggy has a lot of trauma from being abused as a child, which sounds weird to say about a toy, but he takes that abuse out on you. So here's my honest take on Huggy Wuggy. Because he's so tall, there are areas of the factory he can't navigate at that size. There are spaces he's too tall to fit in. That's just the problem us super tall guys deal with every day. And in the game, your character is pretty short. I'm not short, but the character in the game is. So my whole plan would be to identify every single one of those spaces that Huggy Wuggy can't fit in and just go inside them and never leave. I'm not going anywhere Huggy Wuggy can also go. But even if you can handle him, you also have Kissy Missy, which is basically Pink Huggy Wuggy. She actually helps you in the game. But you know who doesn't? Mommy Longlegs. This is the character that will make my confidence drop. She's the main threat of the second chapter of this game. Where Huggy Wuggy is large and visible and gives you some warnings of his approach, Mommy Longlegs is fast and flexible and she can fit basically anywhere. Matter of fact, she could be under your bed right now. There's a couple reasons why she would probably be my downfall. First reason, she makes you play these games to actually beat her, which can be quite tricky because you have to use your brain. Now, I'm sure I don't even need to say why that would be hard for me to do, but if you don't understand what I mean, just look in the comment section of literally any of my shorts. Second reason, which is the more realistic one, is that Mommy low-key sounds like she's trying to riz you up in the game. She talks in this flirtatious voice that makes you want to do whatever she says, and I've encountered this exact personality type in real life, and I always end up getting manipulated by them. Why? I don't know. But if you somehow manage to get past Mommy, you've got these annoying little toys called the Smiling Critters. Seeing these creatures actually makes me wish I was in the game. Because if I was, I would just drop kick them. They aren't even much of a threat themselves. But when you have so many of them attacking you and they're all making noise, you just decide to give up. I would definitely be able to beat them if you put me in this game though. Because like I said, I just become Prima Noddle and start kicking them through walls at 100 miles per hour. Why they don't let you do that in the game will never make sense to me. But about halfway through this series, you meet this mysterious purple creature named Catnap. And Catnap sprays red gas that puts you to sleep and handles the rest while you're unconscious. Sounds pretty illegal if you ask me. Well, I guess basically everything that happens in this game is illegal. Like murder. But if I was in this game and I had to deal with Catnap, I don't like my chances. I'm a guy who loves to sleep as it is. So picture this. I'm inside a toy factory, fighting for my life, which means I'm probably exhausted. And the moment I get a whiff of that red gas, I will gladly take a quick nap. Only problem is, I probably won't wake up from it. But honestly, if I had to choose a way to go out in this game, it would be this. Falling asleep is way better than getting ripped to shreds by Huggy Wuggy. Here's the core reason I survived Poppy Playtime when I clearly have no chance in Five Nights at Freddy's. You see these things right here? I can use these in the game. Okay, you probably have no idea what I mean by that. But what I'm saying is that you can actually move in Poppy Playtime, which means you can run and hide. Five Nights at Freddy's locks me in a fixed position and just says, good luck. You're basically paralyzed in that game. Not only can you move in Poppy Playtime, but you also have weapons to defend yourself. They give you a hand that's a gun, another hand that makes you jump super high. All these things can help you not get brutally destroyed by the villains. So this gives me some confidence. Actually, you know what? What am I even saying? If I was in this game, like for real, I would beat it easy. It wouldn't even be a question because I do not care what happened at Playtime Co. Not even a little bit. And when you start playing the game, you learn the story and it's all about saving these poor toys and blah, 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 blah. So your character never actually tries leaving the factory without being the hero. But let's be real, if you put me in Playtime Co., the moment I identify where the nearest exit is, I'm moving directly towards it without thinking twice. Not that I think normally, but yeah, I'm beating this game. I don't care about saving no toys. Respectfully. So I give myself an 85% chance of surviving Poppy Playtime. Mommy Longlegs is the reason for the missing 15% because, well, I might try to riz her up and end up getting tricked by her. And also Catnap's gas is the other major liability because I like to sleep. But everything else, I'm beating easily. It don't scare me. Now I want to be upfront with you guys right now. My will to live is very strong. There's a lot of things I would do to well, survive. But at some point, you gotta stop and say to yourself, why am I still doing this? Is it actually worth it? And this is exactly what I would say to myself if you put me in the game The Last of Us. Let me explain why I'm saying what I'm saying. Just to give a quick breakdown on The Last of Us storyline, it's about an infection breaking out that has mutated and began spreading through humans. But this ain't any normal infection. First, it moves through the brain and you become what is called a runner, still somewhat human in appearance, but you're aggressive, fast, and unsavable. Then we've got stalkers, which are more tactical and hard to detect, and they're more aware of their environment. You've also got clickers, which give me PTSD just saying the name of that, because the clicker is fully blind, but uses echolocation to navigate with terrifying accuracy, and if they get a hold of you, you're done. If you don't know what echolocation is, I don't either, so don't ask, but I know that's what they use. Then there are bloaters, which are enormous creatures covered in fungus who throw explosive spore pods at you from a distance. And the second game adds things called shamblers and the Rat King and yada yada yada. But here's the thing I need you to understand about this world. The humans in the game are just as dangerous as the infected people. There are hunters who will rob you, military that will hurt you. If you're a human in this game and you see another human, chances are you're cooked or they're cooked. Just depends who reacts first. So if you actually wanted to survive in this world, you simply have to do what the characters in the game do. Move quietly near clickers, stay out of open ground so people can't see you, check every corner before committing to entering a room, and treat every stranger as a potential threat. You don't have to do this for a day or a week or for a year. No. You have to do this for the rest of your life. So this is where, if I'm in this situation, I have to ask myself,
what exactly am I fighting so hard for?
why don't I just accept my fate and let the zombies eat me? Because I want to stay alive and keep fighting? Dog, what are we fighting for? It is okay to accept defeat. Just rest. Now I know all the people who've played this game's argument is going to be,
Tyler, the character you play as, Joel, is fighting to stay alive for his daughter, Ellie.
but here's the thing. That ain't his actual daughter. He just met her and knew she needed help, and they grew a father-daughter-like bond. So what I would do if I was Joel is find the girl a safe group to let her stay with, and after that, whatever happens, happens. I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying. Genuinely try to put yourself in this situation when the zombie breakout happens. If we're all being honest, this is how it would go. Day 1, freak out, trying to figure out what's happening and hide. Day 2, realize the whole world is going crazy and society is crumbling. Day 3, because society is crumbling, you go inside the grocery store and eat everything in sight for free because there are no rules anymore. Day 4, try to fight some zombies and realize you can't do this forever. Day 5, accept my fate. 0% chance of me surviving The Last of Us, not because of a skill issue, but because I would be too lazy to make it. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting tired of having to survive in these games where it's based on my physical ability. I only could do 6 push-ups during my fitness gram pacer test. I'm not built for this, but luckily there are horror games that don't just rely on you being physically skilled. There are some that rely on your brains. Now some may say that is a disadvantage for me, and you're probably right, but I actually don't have a rebuttal to that. But anyways, next up, Amanda the Adventurer. The premise of this game is that you find a box of VHS tapes in your attic that belonged to a relative. The tapes contain a children's show called Amanda the Adventurer, starring a girl named Amanda and her companion Wooly the sheep. On the surface, it looks exactly like what it presents itself as. A bright, cheerful show for kids, kinda like Dora. Amanda will hold up a picture and go,
What animal is this?
and she waits for your response. But as you start watching the shows, it starts feeling wrong. Slowly at first, then faster. Amanda starts asking things that do not belong in a program made for children, and she gets very angry when you don't answer how she wants. It starts to get really creepy because you can feel the fourth wall breaking when she's genuinely looking at you through the TV. And when you give the wrong answer or refuse to do what she says, she gets mad and basically tries to murder you. Not very nice, Amanda. Her poor little sidekick Wooly is terrified the whole time and basically screaming for help through his eyes. He knows something is wrong with Amanda, he just can't say it. So how do we actually beat this game? You have to watch the VHS tapes and do as it says to beat it. You have to use the clues in these tapes to figure out how to escape. Well, with all due respect, we're literally just dealing with a girl that isn't even in real life. She can only get you through these tapes. So my survival strategy for this game has fewer steps than making instant noodles. I'd walk into the attic, see a box of unlabeled VHS tapes sitting in a dusty corner. I would leave the tapes in the box, walk back downstairs, and never think about it again. I've never owned a VCR. I would have to go out of my way to buy a VCR. It's the same story as the girl from the Ring movie. Just don't get a VCR and you're good. Matter of fact, don't pick up anything that starts with an acronym. VHS, VCR, BBL, just leave it all alone. But let's say I'm already watching the VHS tape before I understand how dangerous it is. And now I'm trapped in the game. Here's exactly how that scene plays out. The tape starts, Amanda's all cheerful and bright. She asks me something simple and I answer it and she moves on. Then she asks something that seems kinda off. It's right in this moment where I would turn the television off. Amanda can't call me on the phone. Think about it. She only hurts you when you disobey what she tells you in the VHS tapes. So if you don't watch the VHS tapes, you'll be fine. It's pretty simple. Once you realize these aren't normal tapes, stop watching them. That's what we would all do in real life, let's be honest. Like if I broke the fourth wall right now and just started saying, hey Jake, I know you're in your room right now watching my video. Why are you laying on your bed? Get up, Jake, get up. Like if your name is Jake and you just watched that clip while laying on your bed, chances are you've already scrolled off this video. That's what I would do. It's pretty simple. I've said it before about all these horror games and movies. Just don't do what the killer is trying to get you to do. It's not rocket science. I'm not letting a Walmart Dora the Explorer scare me all because I don't do what she says on some VHS tapes. Unfortunately though, I talk a big game, but let's be real. I'm a nosy person, so I'm probably not turning those videotapes off if I was actually in this game. And that is when we have a genuine problem that I can't defend myself against. So what is my master plan to beat the game if I was forced to watch every single videotape? I don't know. Who said I have a master plan? Why am I always the one that has to figure out how to beat these games? Why can't y'all be the ones to do it? Because it's your video? You know what, editor? That's a good point. But also, no one asked you for your opinion. You are fired. Third editor I've had to fire this month. All right, guys. Unfortunately, the edits for the rest of this video may look a little weird because I'm the one doing them now, and I'm not the best at it. So just try your best to ignore if the edits look a little weird. But to be fair, the editor did have a good point, and I should probably tell you what I would actually do if I was forced to play all the VHS tapes. LOL, I told you, lil bro. How did you get back in here? I literally just fired you. You know what? Nah, I'm going to your house, editor. Lock your door, buddy.
A few moments later.
Okay, now that I handled that, where was I? Oh, yes. So if I was forced to watch all the VHS tapes, you know what I would do? I would just be a good boy and tell Amanda everything she wanted to hear. This isn't the time to argue. We can fight Amanda after we get out of this attic. But for now, just do what she says. It's like when you listen to your mom because you're hoping she'll get you McDonald's. With that said, I give myself a 95% chance of surviving Amanda the Adventurer. The remaining 5%, I'm blaming on my editor. Well, former editor, I guess. Okay, sorry. I'm just looking up to make sure he didn't sneak back in here somehow. Okay, we're good. So with everything that we've talked about in these horror games and the research I did, the number one thing I've realized is that my willpower is not very strong. You take away my ability to doom scroll for more than 3 days, and that's probably where I call it quits. But I don't know if that's just me or if you guys agree. So let me know in the comments which horror game you think I'm drastically underestimating myself on and which ones you think you would survive. I already know some of you are pulling up the keyboard about to lie so hard about what you would do in these games. But hey, I kind of did the same, so I can't even get mad at y'all.